I thought in September, somebody's going to want to know what I want for my birthday, and I'm going to just decide. Instead of waiting to have somebody ask me, so this is what I thought. This is really close. It's in Wisconsin, close to the cabin, and it's a place that your dad and I was at, and it's really a special place. And so that's why I wanted everybody to be here, and why I let you know so long ahead so you could plan and you'd be able to be with us. So I counted up today, and I think we have 50 people coming up here, and I hope you're all right here so I can see your faces.
Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue.
It was normal to be on the farm. I mean, it wasn't like most of our friends were on a farm too. We always had to get hay for the cows because we milked the cows morning and night. And we always had to grain the cows and clean up in the cows. And you know, the cows, we let them out every day after in the daytime, and then somebody had to go after them at night, and there was always a lead cow that brought everybody in, but you had to go out and encourage the cows to come in, and then they knew exactly where to go into their own stall. It still is amazing that they'd come in that barn and those cows knew what stall was theirs, and they would just go right to it. On the farm, we always had a hideout. And in the summer, it was in where we called the Willows. It was down in an area where there were trees, lots of them. In the winter, we could make one where they put the hay up in the barn, because they would gradually take some of the hay out to feed the animals. You get everything done, and before it got dark, in the evening the sun would go down, and if we could play badminton, it was just the greatest. We would have our badminton sets all set up and everything, and we could go out there and the two of us could play badminton. We walked to school before we got our pony, and then we rode in the pony cart and parked over by our friends. Mom was a school teacher, and before she was married, and she rode a horse to school. She had to be there earlier to start a fire so it would be warm in the one-room schoolhouse. Mom's first baby died, and it was a little boy, and so that was a hard thing to lose your first child. And then her next babies were twins. When I was older, she was always a teacher. She taught in Sunday school, the adult class.
Dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me.
My dad was really a key person in where we lived. The best farmland, and he was known for how large of yield he got to his crops, and I didn't know that. I didn't know my dad knew any more than any other dad, but when we took our cattle up to be at the fairgrounds, the first year we went up there, my dad and mom didn't even come while they were judging the cattle. So we just took the cattle out, and one of the neighbors called Dad and said, "You need to be up here. Your kids are taking all the bluebird bushes." So they came up and saw us, and for 9 years in a row we took grandchildren. Then we realized Dad did know something, and he had this great herd of cattle. And so we just thought grade A milk was what everybody had.
Bubbles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Rosemary said that David had a car, so why didn't he come pick us up to take us to school so we didn't have to walk? It would be really cold.
So he would come by this house and pick us up and take us to school. And we would go out and have ice cream or whatever we did. And then he would go home at Christmas or whenever he went home, then the two of us would ride back and forth with him because he had a car. We used to sit in that truck with Rosemary, was I next to the window, and Rosemary it was a bench seat, so we all three were in the front. It was just one seat. And I don't know how it happened, but he picked me up a couple times without her. And so the next time we went to Iowa, it was like me sitting in the middle, and she was next to the window.
Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, no, no. Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me till I come marching home. Don't go walking down Lover's Lane with anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, no, no.
He was always such a gentleman, helping you across the street. And so I think the first real date we ever went to was to the circus. And we had to sneak out of the dorm because that was not the rule. We couldn't go out to the circus. When they decided to go to the Navy, it was like, oh boy, I gotta decide, do I like you or don't I like you? After boot camp, he went through boot camp, and then he called me and said, the rest of the guys are not doing this, but I just want to get married after we get out of boot camp. What do you think? So I'm like, and we were on a line, country line, with everybody listening, because it was just like, you could hear people click up on the line. It was just...
Don't give out with those lips of yours to anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, no, no. Watch the girls on the foreign shores. You'll have to report to me when you come marching home. Don't hold anyone on your knee. You better be true to me. You better be true to me. You better be true to me. Don't hold anyone on your knee. You're getting a third degree when you come marching home. You're on your own where there is no phone, and I can't keep tab on you. Be fair to me, I'll guarantee this is one thing that I'll do. I won't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but you till you come marching home.
Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. I know the apple tree is reserved for you and me, and I'll be true till you come marching home.
I knew that my dad trusted David when he gave him a car to drive back to Minneapolis. And he said, well, why don't you just take my car? And I was like, woo, my dad thinks he's okay. So anyway, then before David went into service, he asked my dad if he could marry me. And I knew he was going to do that, so I ran upstairs, and at our house we had this stovepipe going up for heat, and around that was this grate that was a circle, and when they took the stovepipe out in the summer you could close that. And so anyway, so I was laying there listening to what was going on in the kitchen, and I rattled that whole little circle thing. And it was like, oh no, now they're gonna know I'm listening to this conversation. I graduated from high school at 16. I went 2 years to college. I was 19 and I got married, and I had my first baby at 20. And it's like, you know, it was good.
I love you truly.
really was one that had a plan and a vision for everybody. And his kids were the best. And I always said, they're just normal kids. And he'd say, no, they're not normal kids. They're the best. You know, when our kids were born, we went to church and we dedicated each one of them to the Lord and said, if things aren't just exactly what we expected, God has a different way of doing this and it'll all work out. Well, she was our firstborn and a girl. And when she was born, I thought, oh, I'll have lots of girls. There won't be any problem with that. And you know what? I didn't have any more girls. And she was independent, able to do anything. Well, we thought she could do anything. And even from when she was little, it was like, she'll be just fine. She can handle everything. And I remember when she was going with John, it was like, ooh, this is something that God can work out and make it just perfect. And so that was our first one to marry, and yeah. But Cheryl, as an adult, she just never would stop learning and stop experiencing new things. And I think when she went back to school the second time after her nursing, she wanted to pursue more training, and now she's in the role of helping people, and she always is so positive. And John was raised wonderful children. It was a wonderful thing to see that family grow. And then when John went to heaven, oh my goodness, Cheryl was able to handle that, you know. I lost her dad, my mom lost her husband, and God gives you the strength, and Cheryl proves that He is sufficient in everything that we need to do. Phil, in just a few words, is a silent giant. He says so little, but he knows so much. It's you have to ask him a question before he will speak to you. Otherwise, he just is like sitting in the corner smiling with this big love for everybody. So, yeah, and of course he was our first boy, and I expected way too much from Phil. And when I look back on some of the things that I expected him to do, I'm like, I must have been a mean mother. You must clean that beauty floor again because you didn't do it and you're not going to get paid and you have to walk down there to do it. He didn't want to go to college. No, he was going to do something else. And then when he got in college, I remember him saying to me, Mom, I almost missed the journey, not only the journey, but the joy of learning. And then when he got his master's degree from Stout, and then he wanted more education, these kids, they love to learn. And then Phil traveling all over the world. And I don't know what Phil does, nor do any of us. He could be in the Secret Service. But he always, now that I don't have their dad, he always tells me, financially, I'm going to be okay, and I just need to be and do anything that I want to do. And that's really, really a privilege to know that one of my kids, all of my kids, want me to just enjoy my life right now. Let's go to the house. He was always the one said, I can do it. That's all right. I'll mow the lawn. We had to have everything done when Dad came home on Friday night. I mean, there was nothing left undone. We had dinner together, and then we had Saturday to go skiing or go any place that we wanted to. Then for a while we were going up to the cabin for many years. But Kurt was always like, I'll take care of that. That'll be just fine. And he today is always ahead of everybody. He's early for everything, up early, and yeah. So he was just an exciting one because I had 2 other kids, and then this third boy came, and it was, second boy, and it was like, ooh, we are a family now. When you get 3 kids, you are a family. Does so well in business. He's been in several different jobs and changing jobs again, and Kurt is so disciplined. His kids are disciplined. Up at 5 o'clock in the morning, oh my, I'm like, just roll over and go to sleep. But Kurt always has everything under control, and his dear family, and Trevor and that little sweet grandbaby, a girl, she's getting big, all these great grandkids. But yeah, Kurt was the one that always stepped up and would do it, so. So then, there's this little Keith, and when we get 4 children, the car is full. And it was like, oh my gosh, he's so cute and he's so special. And Keith was always ready to help and ready to make a happy time, whether he skied down the hill and went underneath a car, or whether he was just always with us. And so we were excited when we got Keith. It's really strange to see Keith grow up and be this adult man, because he was always the little one at home. And when I saw him the other day, he's getting gray hair, and I'm like, oh, this little guy is a man. And Keith always has said to me, Mom, I can feel your prayers, and I thank you for praying for me. And he has said, you know, I'm going to make this all good no matter what. And so he always is, as the youngest one, he's just so strong, and he's able to do what needs to be done.
Come on, baby, let's do that twist. Come on, baby, let's do that twist. Take me by my little hand and go like this. Yeah, twist, baby, twist. Ooh, yeah, just like that. And do the twist. My daddy is sleeping and mama ain't around. Yeah, daddy's just sleeping and mama ain't around. We're gonna twist and twist and twist it till we tear the house down. Come on and twist. Yeah, baby, twist.
I opened up a beauty shop in the front of my house. That house that you saw the picture of, the front porch was a beauty shop. And the 2 kids went off to school because they're 5 years apart. And Kurt was in his basket sleeping or whatever, and I did hair in the front porch. Somebody'd hold him, or I'd put him in his playpen, and he'd sit there and play in it or whatever. And it was like, and of course the neighbors loved just walking over there and doing their hair, getting their hair done. It was like, I was so busy I couldn't believe it.
She really knows how to rock. She knows how to twist.
It was supervising, so he left on Monday, probably noon, and came back on Friday evening. And I hated that job. It was awful, but I didn't dare say anything because it was the way he made a living. And so one day he came home and he said, I don't like it here, and I don't like this job, so we're moving to Minneapolis. I've made application to move to Minnesota. I started crying and said I hated it ever since I lived here. And then here we are, we're gonna move to Minneapolis. And he said, this is not the right thing to do. Ba-da, ba-da-da-da. Ba-da, ba-da.
Monday, Monday, so good to me. Monday morning, it was all I hoped it would be. Oh, Monday morning couldn't guarantee that Monday evening you would still be here with me. Monday, can't trust that day. Monday, sometimes it just turns.
Built the cabin when we were on Vincent. So we went up and found this land up there. We would go on the weekends up to the cabin and tented up there.
Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I think we only had that a year, and David said, let's sell stock. We'll take the stock and build a house at the cabin. And I'm always the one that said, oh, we can't do that. We don't have any money. We haven't got enough money to do that. Oh, and he was like, yeah, we can do that. So I built the house up there.
Learn to help yourself. Look around you, all you see are sympathetic eyes. Stroll around the grounds until you feel at home. And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place for those who pray. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Hide it in a hiding place where no one ever goes. Put it in your pantry with your cupcakes. It's a little secret, just the Robinsons affair. Most of all, you got to hide it from the kids. Cuckoo-cuckoo, Mrs. Robinson, Jesus loves you.
David was the one that always said we need to have this cabin because it'll be great for our family to be together.
I'll light the fire. You place the flowers in the vase that you bought today. Staring at the fire for hours and hours while I listen to you play your love songs all night long. For me, only for me. Come to me now and rest your head for just 5 minutes. Everything is done. Such a cozy room. The windows are illuminated.
When we were on View Lane, David got sick and we added the big porch out there, and the company put him on disability.
Only for you. Our house.
He decided that he wanted to build a house in Florida. And I'm like, we don't have any money to build a house in Florida. Let's just look, Avis. So we had bought a house in Florida near his brother that we rented out. They thought it was we should buy that. So David said, we'll just sell that house and we'll take that money and put a down payment on this house in Florida. So we sold that little house and put that money on the Florida house, and he has cardiomyopathy and we have to go to the doctor all the time, but he's going to Florida. This house, they said, was sold. And the guy said, well, there's a lot of them here, so just look at this one, and if you like it, we can find you one here. And so Cheryl and I looked at this, and then within 24 hours he called me and said the people that had bid on that house couldn't get any financing. And you know, David made all the decisions of everything, and I always thought we couldn't do it. And he always was like, we can't. Well, here's this house for sale. And I'm like, I said, you know what? I'm going to make a very low offer on this house and I'm going to pay cash. And my realtor said, you're going to pay cash? And I said, yeah, I have a house to sell. I can pay cash for that. And he said, well, I think that's pretty brave. And I said, well, that's why I'm bidding so low on this house. I'm like, hey, David isn't telling you what to do or nothing. Yeah. So anyway, so then I didn't sell my place right over there right away. So I'm not moving here till I sell. Yeah. So I signed this and everything, and then I had to come up with some money, and I got to checking how much money I had, and I found out that David had at U.S. banks, he had $100,000 that he could just get at any time. And I went in there to get a loan, and they said, well, you have $100,000 cash that you could just... I'm like, oh my gosh, that's something. So then I needed another $100,000. So I went to Bremer, and they said, well, we'll just give you a bridge loan. You just can have the money that you have. And so here I paid cash for this house. And now I own the beauty shop. I own the place in Florida, and I own this house, and I'm living in a house. And I'm like, I don't even have David. He's not even telling me what to do. Oh my gosh. It was just like, so Phil said to me not too long ago, Mom, do you know how well you've done? I'm like, I was really content in where I was and where I lived. And I knew I'd had a wonderful marriage. But one day this friend of mine, Dick Patterson, called and said, I have a man that would like to meet you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to meet a man. And he said, but he's really nice. And I told him about you, and he would like to take you to the Minneapolis Club. And we would go with you so that you could just meet him, and it'd just be a one-time thing that you could just meet this man that's really nice. He lost his wife, and he's really lonesome, and we told him that sometimes you could help with things like that. Because I had worked with a group at our church for people that had lost their mates. Well, anyway, this was 10 years since I'd had David, and I was doing fine with my girlfriends and whatever. So anyway, I met this Roland, and he was very generous. I mean, immediately he said, I'd like for you to order anything you'd like to order. And then he said, and we all should have dessert, by all means. And we should have anything that we should specially have that you would like. And it was like, well, I guess we might as well order here at this fancy club that we're at. Dick said, well, was he nice? And I said, he was a nice man. He really was. And he said, well, he asked me if he could call you. And I said, and what did you say to him? He said, I told him he ought to try it. So anyway, not very many weeks went by, and he called me and said, I've been thinking about you. And I'm like, you've been thinking about me? And he said, I think I would like to get to know you better. And I'm like, oh my gosh, some man wants to meet with me alone. So he said, well, I have this thing at work that I'd like to have you come to. And it was like, well, I guess I could do that once. So, and he always said, she never would let me in the house. It was always goodbye at the front door. I'm like, yes, I don't let men in my house. Oh, anyway, he was an awful nice man, and he thought I was pretty special, so it was a good marriage. Roland was a very kind, generous man. And it was different than my first marriage because it was different. We were alone, we didn't have children, and it was, his children always cared for me and still do. His daughter keeps in touch, and the kids do too. So it was a happy thing for him and his children, and it was a good thing for me. It was a joy to have Roland and take care of him. And the kids said, our mom wouldn't have done for Roland what you have. And it's good to hear. Good to have them say that. Because at the end of life, we all have needs that we don't know that we're going to have. And Roland had some needs that it was a joy to be able to be there with him. My mom and dad became believers as adults. They were never bad people, but we had a new pastor come to our church, and he told us for the first time that Christmas was more than just popcorn balls and candy. It was that Jesus had been born and came to the earth to live here and then to save us from our sins. So it was a natural thing for us all to go to Bible school and Sunday school. And I remember my Sunday school teacher, my Bible school teacher, said if there's anybody in here that feels like they would like to accept Jesus as their Savior, when we go out to recess, you just sit in your chair. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not moving here, I'm sitting in my chair. So anyway, she told me all about Jesus. It's interesting because as I get older, I just think of different things about the gift of salvation. And the other day I was thinking, you know, we are all sinners, every one of us. And God is perfect. And His heaven is perfect. And everything about us, about God and Jesus, is perfect. And so how do we think that we as sinners are going to go to heaven unless He makes us perfect? And so it just is like, God, you, because of your death, you made us perfect. And now we can go to heaven to be with you. And I've had so many dear friends that are already gone to heaven. But you know what? There's a time on this earth that you don't belong here anymore. And I belong here yet, so don't think I'm going in place. But it's something to think about, that we have to be perfect to go to live where Jesus is. And to be perfect, we need His forgiveness of sin. Let's see, I think it's Philippians 4:7 where it says, so dwell on these things, whatsoever is good, whatsoever is holy, whatsoever is, I can't remember the rest of it. But to dwell on those things, you know, we can dwell on things that are negative, but God says, forget those are behind you. And whatsoever is good, dwell, think about these things and put them into your mind, because anything that we do, we have a thought of doing it before. So that verse is just in Philippians. I read it often, and I just think, yes, God, that's what you told us to do, to think on these good things, whatever is positive.
That's why you don't spend a lot of time talking about your feet.
Oh, somebody said to me, Avis, how are your feet? And I said, well, I still have them. My very favorite is Jesus Loves Me. And my other one is Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. You know, my best friend, they're tearing down her house, and I got to thinking, these houses are all going to be torn down. And those things that are meaningful, we can't see now because they're unseen. But God has made those promises to us that he has a plan, that he wants us to accept him. And so this earth will be torn down, but eternity is a long time. Being a grandma, it's just a wonderful experience. And I think just to see all of these kids born and to be here when they were all born, I mean, it's just like, oh my goodness. Here I am weeping over my dear children I love so much. And it seems like I'm the mother of so many. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
As they grow up, oh, it's almost scary to see how fast they grow up, because first they're crawling and then they're walking, and they love to come to Grandma's house, and it's a highlight for me to have them come to my house and to enjoy it and to be there and to make food for them. And it's really something that I never thought I would see this many grandchildren. And these, I think, the great-grandchildren, oh my goodness. But that's what happens when you have your first baby when you're 20. Then you get to see all these wonderful things that God has given us.
Also on the faces of people going by, I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I ever knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.